Hello and welcome. A big question on the table today is Dumsor back? It just feels as if it's quietly, creeped back into the system without announcing its presence. However, you hear people from Kumasi saying, well, my lights have gone off. You hear people from Cape Coast saying, my light. And then, there's been areas where are complaining about lights going off. However, I just want to look at this issue holistically. Indeed, is it a political problem, an engineering problem, or purely cash problem? And that's what we want to look at again. Because there be so many reasons and so many angles and everybody talking about Dumsor, from one angle or the other. But this evening, I want us to really go into the nitty-gritty and find out, is it anything political or is it just something engineering? But you know what? I just wish that when somebody wins an election, energy and all that stuff be taken out of your jurisdiction. Allow the engineers to work. Why do I say that? Akosombo is running dry and is still being heavily drafted. Whose decision is it? Engineers or politicians? My name is Nana Ansakwa, and your host. When I come back, I have two gentlemen who know what to talk about energy. Don't move. Well, thank you very much for staying. Dumsor returns. Now, with me in the studio is Dr. Ishmaelaka, Head of Policy Unit, ASAP. Doctor, you're welcome. Thank you. Doctor is a big man. Your friend on fire. And then I have Kwame Jantua, a lawyer, an energy expert. He wears so many hats. So I think for today, we'll keep a lawyer, energy expert, and CPP man. Yes. And a Ghanaian,
A proud Ghanaian.
Ghana is his hobby, basically, so we'll just add that. But before I start, just listen to this, so we can set our premises from here. But this was just 8th of May. Germany had so much renewable energy last week that consumers were briefly paid to consume electricity. It has been reported. As spotted by Quartz, who cited the data from German think tank Agora Energy Windy. Fair weather and high winds on Sunday, 8th May, saw wind, solar, and hydroelectric power plants producing 54.6 gigawatts of power, roughly 80% of the 68.4 gigawatts of power consumed across the country at the time. As a result, the price of power plummeted and went negative from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., bottoming at about negative 130 per megawatt hour at 1 p.m. Energy providers were essentially being paid by producers to take electricity off their hands. What a peculiar problem. Now, Doc, let me start with you. So what, they had so much energy that what? Basically, I'm not going to charge you, just turn on an electrical gadget in your house. What does it mean?
I mean, technically, electricity cannot be stored. So if you produce, then it has to be used. So they had so much that they have to pay customers to use more. I mean, to use more than you need. I mean, that was what is happening. I mean, it happened again in July last year in Denmark, where wind energy gave them about 140% of the power they need. So they had excess 40%. They decided to sell it to other countries. So that is what happened. I mean, it can happen here, but it's not happening.
But you see, this is Germany, and they have too much solar power.
Yes, I mean, that is the irony. Here in Ghana, we have about 330 days of sunshine throughout the year. But we have so much sunshine that we use it only for Kobe and some of these things. We passed a Renewable Energy Act in 2011, and when you look at the act, one of the main characteristics of that act is that we should have a renewable energy fund that supports individuals who want to get solar panels. In fact, it was so good. In 2015, the Climate Investment Fund gave Ghana about $41 million to support this. Then in 2015 again, during the President's State of the Nation address, it indicated that now if you're paying for electricity, there's a charge of $0.02 per kilowatt hour. If you're buying fuel, there's a charge of $0.02 per liter to support the Renewable Energy Fund, so that individuals like houses, we can just get solar. Unfortunately, how that operates, nobody knows. How much we have in the fund, nobody knows. And it is becoming very difficult. So that is a challenge we are facing in Ghana now.
Now I have this data here, and this is a data collected from ECG, and it runs from 2000 to 2013. Total energy purchased, and then total sales, and then distribution losses, and then the percentage that we lose. So just pay attention. And I'll start from 2000. Total purchase was 3.9, well, so it would be like what, 3,989. Total sales was 2,910. Distribution losses, 1,079. Percentage losses, 27. 2000. Let me skip to 2002. Total purchase was 4,326. Total sales was 3,200. Distribution losses, 1,126. 26% was lost. Let me move another 2 years to 2005. We bought 5,045. We sold 3,761. We lost 1,285, 25.5% down the drain. Let me skip down to 2013, which is the last one as far as the data I have concerned. 8,479. We sold 6,489. We lost 2,000, 23% loss. Averagely, a quarter of the energy is just going down the drain.
How is it being wasted? Good morning, good evening to fellow Ghanaians. But how is it being wasted?
So when do we say we need 2,000 megawatts? 500 is just too.
You see, Nana, one of the major things we need to look at closely in this country is not to come and talk about we are putting this in, we are putting that in, we are putting solar, we are putting solar. What we need is a plan. So we've gone through Dumsor. Through that period of Dumsor, what have we done to put a plan together? And that plan should heavily include solar. Why? Sunlight is free. It is free energy. And in putting that plan together, one of the major things that needs to be in that plan is to encourage individuals to have solar in their houses. First of all, we should look at the estate developers and how they build their houses. Secondly, we should look at the hospitals. Thirdly, we look at the schools and look at those utility services. When I say utility services, like hospitals, schools, those massive utility services that use electricity. How do we plan for them to use solar? So even if that solar isn't for electricity and is even for water alone, hot water alone, we save some money. Where does the wastage come from? Does it come from distribution? Does it come from the fact that the prepaid meters we have, we are not using it well? Where does the wastage come from? And why haven't we been able to plug that wastage all this while? What is it that is not allowing us to be able to make sure that the kind of electricity we have and the supply of electricity we have, we don't waste it? We're talking about Germany today. If we were to go into the Germany electricity system and even look at their wastage, do you think there would be even 0.0001% in there? It's called efficiency. And so in terms of being able to manage this whole elephant of electricity, that plan needs to be put in there, with wastage being one of the areas we need to plug. Otherwise, it's going away free.
But you are in the field. I mean, are you saying that if we are firing 2,000 megawatts, 500 is just for, just disappears
So
somewhere?
that is what it's saying, isn't it?
I mean, that's what it's saying. But
That is what it's saying. So who is responsible to make sure that we don't get this wastage?
But even, Nana, I think that is a conservative estimate. I mean, 2015, the distributional losses was 32%.
Hey.
Now, 1% distributional loss cost Ghana $8.5 million. So that is how serious the problem. Now, multiply $8.5 million by 32 and see how much we are losing as a country. So I support Kwame's point that, yes, we should have, for us, that's why we supported the creation of the Ministry of Power. We thought that we had issues at the generation side, we had issues at this transmission side, we had issues at distribution. So a ministry that is coming to coordinate all this, come out with a power investment plan, with a sustainable fuel strategy, diversified fuel strategy, so that it will direct us. You see, in 2010, we came out with the energy sector strategy and development plan. And we said, oh, by 2015, we should get we should be producing like 5,000 megawatts and all these things. We came out with nice plans. So we thought the power ministry was coming out, in fact, coming to make these plans a reality. Do more like look at, as I said, the first time we had Dumsor was 34 years ago, continuous Dumsor. We had it 1982 to 85, 97 to 2000, and we're still always talking about fuel, always talking about generation, always talking about so many other things. Can we just come out with a plan? This is where we want to go with a diversified fuel strategy, looking at wind, solar, so many other sources we can get free from Ghana.
But Nana, bringing out that plan also means that you need the requisite amount of finance to go with it. So you just don't bring out the plan. So we had Dumsor. The government then went for Amari, went for all these, and said, right, Dumsor is on its way out. However, you didn't tell us how much money you've secured to be able to buy the fuel to run this. When you knew that we owed Nigeria with the West African gas pipeline, when you knew that Ituabo at the time was having problems, when you knew we only had one oil field in the Jubilee field and anything could have gone wrong. You see, we cannot take out the oil industry out of electricity today, because we have said that where generation is concerned, we are going to use gas. And so that directly fits into the oil and gas industry. So if it fits in there, what are some of the things we need to make sure that we have sustainable gas? That is why way back in 2006, 2007, when we were considering to use an FPSO, some of us told President Kufuor that, look, FPSO is good. However, it can have major problems in terms of malfunction. And if it malfunctions, it could happen that that whole FPSO would have to go back into dry dock. What do you do then? So let's have a mix of a rig and a dry dock and the FPSO. At least with the rig, it is stagnant. If anything spoils, you can get engineers in to come and fix, and you can still produce gas. Where are we today? The FPSO is hanging. There's a huge possibility that that FPSO would have to be taken to dry dock. And if it goes into dry dock, where is the gas coming from? With what the challenges we're having with Nigeria today. And so that comprehensive plan, in the way we put things together, yes, renewable energy is key. We need to be able to identify, especially with wind, those parts of the country we can get maximum wind to make sure that we use wind power. And we use all the other types of the mix.
Let me take a quick break here and come here. But as far as wind power is concerned, Engineer Wood says along the Volta corridor, that's where all the maximum wind is. And if you place your wind turbines there, you're definitely going to generate some electricity. I'm going to take a quick break, and then when I come back, we are talking Dumsor.
On the issue of whether Dumsor is back, You would recall that the FPSO went down, and when the FPSO went down, we had to adopt a process of switching most of the thermal plants from gas back to light crude. And it's a process. It's not a one-day event. It's not just an activity. It's a whole process. If you have your vehicle and you are switching from gas to petrol or from petrol to gas, you need to do some retrofitting and some cleaning. And so we went through that process. But the good news is that the FPSO is back and has started delivering gas. And so we are going through the process of switching the thermal plants back onto gas. And that is also a process, and it takes a couple of days. In fact, with some of the thermal plants, you have to switch them off completely, allow them to cool down, work on them, and commence the process of switching. And in the process of switching, you could have some initial challenges. And so that is why you've seen a bit of a systems disturbance. And so we envisage that in the coming days, the situation should improve. And all things being equal, once we are able to fire all the thermal plants, we should be able to return back to normalcy.
Thank you very much for staying. We're switching from crude back to gas. It just needs a bit of tweaking, and then we are home and dry. But the nation's heartbeat, the Ghana Premier League, which shows every Saturday on your leading channel, Adum TV, for all the cheers, tears, suspense, and thrills. Don't miss the Never Say Die Accra Heart to Folk. I'm Heart to Folk.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, good.
I am a Santi Kotoko.
Even though we were robbed in our last match, but we never
today you beat Hazakas.
Oh, we beat Hazakas.
Yes, you beat Hazakas today. Yes.
So they never said I had to folk. The fabulous Kumasi Asante Kotoko, the mysterious Abusia Dwarf, Sekendi Hazakas, and the new kid on the blog, Mediama, Liberty Professionals, Brekum Chelsea, Techiman City, Wild Stars, New Dibiasi, all the other Premier Giants on your favorite channel, Adum TV, every Saturday. It's Ghana Premier League, only on Adum TV. Yeah, Azia. Oh, yeah. Back to the studio, but before, the numbers are 0560 800 000. 0560 800 000. Send your messages in. This one says, Dumsor returns. To me, the problem lies in two things: the hypocrisy of politicians and the cowardice of the engineer who fears to call a spade a spade. This is Nietzsche, who's watching all the way in Nigeria. So send your messages in and I will catch up with you. Well, we may come to studio. We'll leave the losses and then just go back to this. So we are switching from crude to gas. Hence, you know, a bit of power loss.
Well, I think for me, it goes beyond switching from crude to gas. I mean, as of today, the peak demand is around 2,040 megawatts. The peak supply is around 1,698 megawatts. What it means is that we have a shortfall of about 300 megawatts.
Yes.
We are already importing about 70 from Cote d'Ivoire. Now, what is causing this? Is it just that we are switching from gas to crude?
Nope.
One of the main factors has been the low water level in Bui and Akosombo. The minimum water operating level at Bui is 138 meters above sea level. That is where we are now. So off-peak, we have to off-Bui. Then during peak time, we own only one. There's also a challenge with fuel at the Tema Enclave, where Senate has to operate, almost have its capacity. At times, it has to even shut down, especially when after peak. Then Asogli, because of the Nigerian gas, is also not operating. So that means one ETA is gone. So when you add all these together, we are talking about a challenge that goes beyond switching from gas to light crude oil. I think that we've not taken the issue of fuel diversification seriously. Nigeria, yes, the minister said it's because they are on strike. But if they are on strike, then it means that we've not been planning over some time now. So do we say that if Nigeria is on strike, we stay here and sleep in darkness? When they return, then we get light. I don't think that is it. We have fuel sources we can get some control over. We've already mentioned solar, we've already mentioned tidal waves, we've already mentioned wind. In 2010, when you look at the energy sector strategy, said there are even about 6 potential hydro places in the western region that can give us about 625 megawatts by 2015. What have we done about that? So there are so many things we can do, but as Kwame said, it be like we don't have a plan. When something happens, then we react. We try to solve it. We said, oh, we have a generation deficit. We brought the budgets, forgetting that we need fuel to power some of these budgets. So this is what is happening. Let us have a plan from now, a strategy. This is where if demand is growing by 10 to 12%, how do we meet that demand? Get a reserve margin. How do we get fuel? If we are going to concentrate on gas, we may, yes, Sankofa is coming, but we may even need regasification plant. Let us look at the renewable energy. Then where do we get financing to fund all this plan? Put it together, and if not, I mean, we'll just come and every day we'll have a story to tell.
Nana,
yeah.
One of the major things we also have to look at, which seems to be outside this whole issue of electricity, is the winner-takes-all concept we have in this country. Because for a national issue like this, I think political parties should come together. All the brains in the different political parties that can help solve this matter should come together and sit around the table, because it affects everybody. And we should put the politics aside and say that, look, this is something that goes to the nitty-gritty of employment in this country, goes to the nitty-gritty of how people earn their daily living. We've just been through one. We saw what it did to businesses. We saw what it did to the ordinary man's home when he bought food and put it in the fridge. We saw what it did to our children going to school. Cold stores. Let's put all this politics aside. Let's all sit around the table. How do we sort this out? Because the winner-takes-all situation is creating major difficulties for us where national issues are concerned. And for me, that is one thing we should try and pin down. And it's not a question of is MPP, CPP, NDC who brought the suggestion. It's a question of have we been able to solve it? The same way Canada did. The same way Canada did. In the last financial crisis, when America was going through challenges, the whole world was going through challenges. This was in the Thatcher era. The Prime Minister of Canada then said, look, this thing we can't handle on our own. All political parties, come, let's sit around the table. Let's nip this in the bud so that we don't go there again. In this last financial crisis, did you hear anything about Canada? No, because they sorted it together. And we've got to get to that point in this country where we put politics aside and tackle issues that have national importance.
Because I mean, this is one of those things that probably they won't admit in the open, but when you hear opposition talk about Dumsor, there's a little element of joy to say this can be our trump card, rather than the country's going down.
And that is the point I'm making. That's the point I'm making. And we've got to a stage where we need to put political parties aside and put the country in there. Because we seem to love the political party more than the country. As you're just saying, hey, they can't do it. Let's squeeze it small. Let's squeeze them more. Instead of saying that, okay, is this the way it is? We would suggest that we should look at solar. And in looking at solar, let's do it parallel to what we're trying to do for the others. So that as the others are growing, solar too is growing. But what do we see? Nothing like that. We have only, is it 2 megawatts of solar in the north? Yeah. Is that enough? So let's look at the cost benefit of that 2 megawatts of solar. And let's see if we were to extrapolate that into much bigger megawatts, how will that help us? And let's do the maths together. And let's see how the ordinary Ghanaian would be able to get comfortable with electricity, constant electricity in this country.
Are you for solar for individual, everybody have a panel on your roof, or solar where we have solar farms?
In Israel, everybody has a solar panel on their roof. If not for electricity, at least for hot water. That is one. Then there's something called microgrids. Microgrids are those types of solar that say you put in Dumsor and it handles the Dumsor area. Cantonments handles the cantonments area. Airport handles the airport area. Let's have those two in. Because what then happens is that when we have challenges with the national grid, that switches on automatically. People continue to have light. So we need to sit, and the planning is important. Microgrids are not that expensive, but they can help enormously in terms of when we have situations like this. Just imagine if we had microgrids dotted all over the country. In a situation like this,
they'll work what 6 to 6 in the afternoon. Or?
Well, it depends on how you plan
there are
it.
even now batteries and storage,
Yes.
so it can even work throughout. I mean,
Throughout.
even in the night.
Throughout. And then, if that is the case, we can even say that because we have solar grids, we would move the electricity from the grid into industry. Because where Ghana is concerned, domestic consumption is higher than industry. And so we would put the solar grids for domestic and move the other into industry. And then, in addition, try and export a bit of that. Now, that export we're exporting, we're not exporting to bring the money back into the economy. We're exporting to reinvest into the system so that gradually we are building, we're having wave, we're having this. So within a 10 to 20 years span, we can say that we have infrastructure where electricity is concerned.
Doc, you know, we have this growth of 10% per annum.
Yes.
But if we are
Is
losing,
it 10 or 12?
10 to 12.
10 to 12%.
12 per
yes.
annum. But if we're losing 25 per annum, I mean, so how does it balance? Does it mean we don't actually need a growth, or we need just a small percentage growth?
I think that we should look at it holistically. Yes, demand grows between 10 to 12%. So how do we put in place measures to get, say, supply to meet that demand? One, get a reserve margin of about 25%.
Very important.
So that, and not just machines, I mean machines that can work when you put fuel in. So about 25%. And work to reduce, even when you look at the PURC guideline, distributional losses should not go beyond 18%. Unfortunately, consistently, ECG has been going beyond the PURC target. So work, and in fact, when you talk about distributional losses, there are two things here. Commercial losses and technical losses. The commercial losses come from non-payment of bills, illegal connection, and those things. Then the technical losses come about when we are not investing in the machines, and because of that, we are losing power because of obsolete equipment and all those things. So if we do investment and make sure that we come out with a strategy to reduce commercial losses. In 2013, for instance, the finance minister ordered ECG to fix prepaid meters in all ministries and departments. As we are talking, they've not even done 20% of that. So if we can do that, at least government debt, the government can settle the old debt, whilst we will not get any new debt. Then to tie in lastly with what Kwame was saying about solar, I mean 32% of the consumers, we classify them as lifeline customers because they consume less and the government seeks to subsidize their consumption. Unfortunately, that subsidy is not paid. Government does not pay. I mean, it's on paper that we subsidize. So why don't we get these people on solar? Already we have a renewable energy fund. As I said, the climate investment fund is paying into it.
So is that what they bought the lanterns with?
The
You know, some solar energy lanterns came in.
yeah, I mean, that was one NGO was doing a distribution, but I think the president announced that they've distributed some to
Yes, but I think
barbers,
they bought a bit from the oil revenue.
barbering shops and seamstress, and yes, I think. But we should have, even if we're going to have about 200,000, how do people apply? How do we train them to take care of the solar we are fixing and all those things? So I think we should have a policy on it and not just, oh, today we've announced. And that is where the issue becomes political. At times, yes, the opposition may take joy in the fact that Dumsor is on. But at times, to how we create the issue. In February, for instance, if we wanted to, the president, for instance, announced Dumsor is over, I faced it, and some of these things. I mean, you want to take the credit. You get it? It is not, you are not treating energy as an economic issue. We are treating it as a political issue. So if you do that, the opposition may also want to react. So I think that if we want to see energy as an economic issue, let us leave it to VRA, let us leave it to the ministry, power department, or whoever's in charge. Let us come out with a plan and let all of us contribute and support to fix it. I think that would be better than trying to make it political, and when it doesn't go well, then we want to make it economical.
Nana, there's an explosive statement that was made by the Gridco boss at that press conference. And give me a chance to just mention it. At the time, you might not have thought it's explosive, but for me, it's explosive. He said that we have observed that the reserve margin is 146 megawatts, which is only 5.9% of the projected peak demand. In effect, the system would be constrained if any unit has to undergo maintenance. So we knew this. We knew that we didn't have a reserve margin. The reserve margin was 1.4. What was the plan towards this? Because the reserve margin is so important. The only time we've had some good reserve margin is during World Cup. That was the only time. And so if we know that we have minimum reserve margin, other things might come into play that can compromise this reserve margin. What do? We plan and make sure that we can get more reserve margin. And for me, where this whole thing is concerned, we need to do it parallel with others. So we've brought in Ameri. Ameri is gas, eh?
Yes.
There's one which is dual.
Yeah, there are dual plants like TAPCO and TICO. Yeah.
So you bring in Ameri, which is gas. You are not too sure of your gas flow. Now we are constrained with gas. How does Ameri work? And we are supposed to pay a certain number. Is it 10 million?
Yeah.
10 million a month.
Capacity charges.
Capacity charges.
Gas.
Yes, gas or no gas. Where does that money come from? So the planning is key. And I think in so doing, we should make sure that those who can sit and help the government of the day put these things together well for the long term.
Why aren't the engineers? Why don't we hear from the engineers? Hey, hold on. I'm at the dam and I'm telling you that this thing, we need to only open maybe just 2 gates instead of the 3 or the 4. We are drafting too much. Why don't they talk?
Let me tell you, I'm on the NDPC. And quite recently, we engaged with all the MMDAs and the MDAs. The one thing that I saw, and this was my observation, everybody is protecting their turf. Minister, then the thing is hurting. When we interviewed certain ministries, some of the things, and the first thing we said to them was that this is not an inquisition. This is something that we need to know exactly what your challenges are, so that in drafting the long-term national development plan, we can include those challenges in. So be bold. Nobody's going to report you to anybody.
They told you stuff.
Well, that was when they got comfortable, and some of them spoke. So I asked some of them. So you're telling us this. Have you been able to tell your minister? Kept quiet. That fear, where we think the minister is a god, so there's certain things we can't say, has to be eradicated. Because in the end, they would say, Chief Director, all these technical engineers you're talking about, they are the ones who are supposed to give advice to the minister. And if they give the advice to the minister and the minister doesn't take it, they should be able to tell Ghanaians, because we are all there to serve Ghanaians. More so the politician than even the Chief Director, because the politician is directly voted by the people to come and serve. And so it is important that Ghanaians cultivate this habit of not even whistleblower, but being able to stand their ground and be confident in what they are saying. And so I don't understand why we have, if engineers, Ghanaian engineers could go to Liberia and make sure that the electricity works, why are they quiet here? What is stopping them? What is it? Is it a comfortable scenario or situation where I'm comfortable in my own place, I don't want it shaken? No, it shouldn't be so. Because when it happens, we all suffer.
Let me take a message. This one says, good evening, Nana. Nana, I believe it's high time the country starts tasking the universities and polytechnics to come out with their research findings. My problem is, why should a whole KNUST is on the national grid so they can't generate their own energy? If they try to do so, the same approach could be adopted to solve Ghana's energy problem, because KNUST is a community on its own. Thank you, Emmanuel Dofo. Let me go this one. Good evening, Nana, to you and your brilliant guest. The issue is sustainable, affordable, and accessible energy in a country. If a country is serious, it's a serious issue that, as a country, we must take serious and be committed to it. We can't solve this problem by always struggling to equate our demand to generation. We need a comfortable reserve margin. A little research I did during my MSc in renewable energy technologies at KNUST showed that this country demands grows at a rate of 10% per annum. This means that for the next 5 years, for example, we need to be above our demand by 50% or more. Nana, politicians need the technocrats to solve this problem. We must admit this as a country. Engineer Jonas Azifo in Koforidia. 50%, is it not too high?
Yeah, I mean, he is calculating 10% annually. And,
so in the next 5 years?
The next 5 years, but that is not how it works actually. If we're having 2,000 now, what it means is that 10% is 200. Okay, I think, yeah, 50% of now, yeah, in the next 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah, the present.
Now, let me ask the question. When the First Republic, the CPP government under Nkrumah, when they built KNUST, what was the intention of that university? It was science-focused. What do we see today? What are some of the subjects KNUST are doing? It's a totally science university where these things could emanate and students can use their ideas in the sciences and technology to help this country. Where does KNUST go and study law? Where? Why does KNUST have a law school? When we have, what do you call it, Legon here doing law, you have Gimpa doing law, Cape Coast University doing law. Why? Why? We need to be able to train our young ones in the sciences. Because if we don't train them in the sciences, how do they help develop? Go to America today. There's a place called, what is it called? This quadrant.
The Silicon Valley.
The Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley. Go and see the things they do there. You think we can't do it here? The brains we have are the same as the brains the white man has. So why aren't we using it? Why aren't we using it? The educational curricula that we have in, are we really looking at that curricula and how that curricula can help? Are we looking at it? And even putting this plan together where energy is concerned, it has to be linked into industry. Can you imagine if those industries we had in the First Republic were still here today? It wouldn't be finance that would make them go bankrupt or make them close down. It would be electricity. So what are we doing about it? Where's the plan? Where's the plan? I think we've left it too long. And I hope it's not too late. Because really and truly, those 19 years of the Rawlings administration, those were years we could have put so much together, especially where Dumsor is concerned. Because in those times, there was also Dumsor. Weren't there? Could we not have developed things then? Would it not have a rippling effect now? But it hasn't. And so we should really and truly look at how we will put this plan together, not only for today, but also for the future.
056.
If we are going to compete. Yeah. And do you know that we import electricity from Cote d'Ivoire cheaper than we produce in Ghana here? Why is that so? Why is that so?
I didn't know that. I've learned something this evening. Let me catch up with some of your messages coming. 0560 800 000. This one says, hi, good evening. I'm Andrews Animal, chatting from Asenkrigwa in the Western region. Energy crisis shouldn't be treated as a political issue. We need the field engineers to help us out. It's high time we put a stop on how we solve national issues. This one says, Ghana can only come out of this if politicians allow the engineers to plan for the country's power requirements without interference. Let me go here. I think I got this one already. It says, come to the College of Engineering in KNUST anytime and see advanced renewable technologies at work. Tomorrow, the Germans will be at the College of Engineering to see how some of our solutions at work. Government should come and see for themselves. Joy, come and see. EKA in Kumasi. So he's saying they are, producing the magic, but it's just not getting out of the schools.
Don't hear it.
Good evening to you, Nana. The long and short of the story of energy crisis we face in the government is the government does not have the money to fuel the power generation plant. Government is being economical with the truth by hiding behind FPSO generating capacity, etc. Those excuses are unacceptable. Safo Kamanta in Kasua. You still think it's money, or I think we're going past the money issue
Part
now?
of it.
It's a major
It's
part.
major part of it.
Major part of it.
Yes.
Major part of it. Good evening, Lana. Any recurrence in Dumsor, irrespective of the scale and magnitude, will be a serious indictment on government, especially considering the staggering amount injected to remedy the situation. For me, this gradual return of Dumsor is a clear manifestation that the use of cosmetic methods as surrogate measures to solve our power supply quagmire has been a complete fiasco. This is Jacob. Indeed, I mean, if you look at how much we paid for this, generators that came in, it's a shame that just around the corner we have another reason to sleep in darkness.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pattern, but as I said, the issue here, I mean, a major issue has been fuel.
Fuel.
And it's because we don't have that diversified fuel strategy. We are just talking about, let's add capacity, we should get it to 5,000 megawatts. But when we buy the machines, what are we going to put in? You see, when you look at the strategy, I refer to the energy sector strategy. I mean, it says that by 2015, we should be producing 5,000 megawatts. Unfortunately, it did not say anything about the fuel we are going to put in those plants. We signed an agreement with Nigeria for 123. FPSO is giving us something there, 12 gas.
120 is supposed to.
So we believe that there are other sources we can tap. In fact, we have control over. Now the minister says Nigeria, they are on strike, and because of that, we are not getting gas. But before the strike, Nigeria gas supply to Ghana started reducing to the extent that last 2 weeks, Asogli was doing only 40 megawatts out of 180. What caused that? So we should have ways of controlling our fuel sources, diversify, so that when A is down, at least you can depend on B. Until we reach that point, I mean, it will be 34 years of Dumsor, and in fact, it's very bad.
Let me hazard a solution. And the solution I'll hazard is that we've been told that Tor is back in production. We've been told that they have made some profit. And so if that is the case, Tor being in production in terms of refined petroleum products means that they are putting the BDCs out of business now. Why don't we say, okay, Tor, yours is to produce fuel for generation. BDCs, yours is to bring in refined petroleum products, at least for now, if fuel is the challenge. Now, we have different types of fuel that we use.
Let me take a break, and then you give us the different types. But this one is from, says KNUST started great connected systems long before the power crisis, yet we ignore them. I wish those who say KNUST is doing nothing come to the College of Engineering before they say so. Joy, I challenge you. Nana, please get in touch afterwards. It's amazing how our own do not pay attention to our solutions. EAK in Kumasi. I'll get in touch afterwards. I'm going for a break, and when we come back, we find out the different fuel solutions. Thank you very much for staying, and your messages are coming in. Nee says, come to wager. 3 out of every 5 homes are illegally connected. This one says, Nana, I am shocked Ghanaians are unaware, hence claiming to have been out of Dumsor. Having gone through the policies under which this emergency power badge and others were forcefully put under the limelight to deceive ordinary Ghanaians, I pity this president. We are going to experience more dams than the previous year, more Dumsors than the previous years, until a bold step is taken. Francis in Bando. Good evening, Francis. But you're explaining to us the fuel, the differences in fuel.
There's light crude fuel or oil. There's heavy oil, and there's diesel. So even if we say Tor, they only produce 45,000. Even if you say, okay, Tor, you would not be able to produce for the power plants or the power generation. And so we switch it through the other way. Bring a certain percentage BDCs to Tor or Bost. Increase the supply of crude to Bost. BDCs, bring in crude for electricity generation. Heavy crude, because heavy crude is not as expensive as light crude. Bring it in. Give the BDCs that chance to bring it in. Would we not be able to at least solve a percentage of the fuels that we need for our generation plants?
Kwame, I think you are reducing the problem to availability.
Yes, but it's money.
But
It's got to do with money
if
too.
they give it to them, would they pay? Will VRA get the money to pay?
Well, government must find a way to do it. Government must find a way to do it. And one of the things we should look at, and I keep saying this, we should look at this 70% of the oil revenue in the consolidated fund. We should look at that. We should look at the traditional ways where we get our revenue from. We should look at tightening those places so that we don't get too much wastage, so that we have enough money from the oil to be able to procure these things.
Kwame, this one is for you. Says, I want to find out from Mr. Jantua, what would make Ivory Coast export power into Ghana that is cheaper than what we produce ourselves?
It's planning. They've planned well. They've made sure that they have the requisite amounts of money to be able to curtail the wastage that they have. Why aren't we learning from that? Because wastage is a huge problem in terms of computing it into money. Huge, huge problem. And if you've looked at all the presentations we've had, nobody has talked about wastage. I would have expected when the president came to Parliament to give the State of the Nation address, that was one of the things he would have talked about, one. The second thing I expected him to talk about was, yes, we are bringing in all these generation plants, and we've been able to secure X amount of money for the crude. Not go to MCC and get MCC to give you a condition based on privatizing ECG for 500 million grant.
When are we talking about that? As to whether we have to float it on the market or as to whether somebody has to buy into it, which is better. But this one says, when the discussion is technical, we don't see politicians and serial callers sending messages. My country, Ghana, needs help. This is Reginald. I'm
a politician.
You wear many hats, so you are exempted.
Technical today.
A politician tomorrow.
This one, this is Brutus from Jachi. Hi, Nana. I really love your discussions, especially the suggestions made by the two panelists you have today. Ghana needs such people to always solve our problems. Kudos to you and the gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in. This one is Nantoma Mohamedou from Boko. Says, I heard the power minister deny the Dumsor is not back. I find that misleading and a mere propaganda just to score a cheap political point. And the earlier minister stops the denial mechanism and get to work, the earlier, the better we will face the power crisis as a country. Simple. This one says, why can Dumsor return? Everything in Ghana has been, why can't Dumsor return? Everything in Ghana has been politicized. We don't even know which one is a national issue and what is politics. Government is using propaganda on everything instead of prudent solutions. They only think about winning the next elections and not solving the problem. Oh, Ghana, when? By Akwesi Manso in Manso Estresu Kumasi.
But the people also have a responsibility. The people have responsibility through their parliamentarians. And if parliamentarians go into the constituents and have surgeries, that is where the people should question them about these things. If that isn't happening, how do the people get a mouth to make sure that what they are looking for happens? It's a challenge.
Well, just my concluding thoughts. But I think with the KNUST issue, they have made in KNUST solar panels for all the traffic light on campus. It's got a lecture there. So I think they may need to need support to market it more. But I think that we've said enough. What I believe is we need a sustainable, diversified fuel strategy to look at solar, to look at wind, all the other sources. Get especially the lifeline customers of, as Kwame suggested, those who are building new estates. We try to have a more like a plan with them, some negotiation.
Sorry to catch you in here, but you know, sometimes, you know, I don't dwell on juju and stuff, but sometimes I find it a solace is already so that is like a, you know, find a hiding place, because otherwise, how do you explain it? Because, I mean, it's a solar. I mean, the sun is already there, so we just need to do the thing and leave it on there. So, I mean, what is letting somebody sign their pen to say, listen, for every solar you bring in, clear it free or set up an assembly plant and build it free? I mean, what stops it? What stops it, Kwame? I mean, what's the politics?
I believe Ghanaians don't live outside the box, especially where politicians are concerned. When you look at our first president, he did things outside the box. When he wanted to bring Akosombo in, who didn't say it would not happen? Valco, who didn't say, you put the politics aside. When he was twinning cocoa bags to cocoa areas, when he was training jute factory to cocoa areas, when he was training even Fulani cattlemen bringing in cattle to the, what do you call it? The Combi factory. And the horns, which he used for glue for the shoe factory in Kumasi. You need to live outside the box. And we need a situation where once we finish an election, we are building a nation. We are building a nation, and you need to be able to bring everybody on board. For the
should the citizens demand solar? Look, like, because in the political campaign now, I haven't heard environment, I haven't heard, losses. You know, well, here's, we give you jobs, we give you jobs, we give you jobs. You know, what are you going to use to do the job? Yeah.
The people need also to be educated. The people need to know the different alternatives. Doc was talking about wave power. I started working on wave power maybe 10 years ago, because I went to an exhibition in Scotland and they had started wave power. And I thought, it will work in Ghana. It will work in Ghana. When I then came back and I saw the Ministry of Energy, then, oh, this is something that it won't happen.
And just a minute. You know, Sweden imports waste to generate electricity.
Waste.
They import.
They go
and buy waste to generate electricity. Ghana, we have so much waste, we don't know where we are putting it. So I think we have what it means. In fact, we have the resources. We just need the will, the plan, and the finances to convert them into.
But let me give a typical example. We had nearly 22,000 acres of rubber. The rubber tree has a lifespan of 30 years. Once that rubber tree doesn't produce rubber anymore, you know what you use it for? To generate power. The Americans buy dead rubber trees in their numbers to generate power in America. Why can't we do that here? And when you look at the rubber tree, it does so many things. But You're not even talking about it. So we need to go out there and be able to live outside the box, be able to see some of the opportunities that can help us. Waste. Waste is one of the major areas you can get electricity
You get
from.
biomass for secondary
so many
schools,
things.
for universities, using the feces to generate electricity for them.
Even human feces.
Yeah.
Even human feces. And what do? We dump it in our
Plan,
seas.
plan, 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 plan. What an insightful discussion. I want to say thank you very much to Kwame. Thank you very much to Dr. Aka.
Thanks for having us.
And say thank you to Tantis, who makes my shirt. And you can reach Tantis Fashion on 024 366 2001. 024 366 2001. Thank you very much for watching. Tomorrow we'll be back to do this all over again.
PM Express was brought to you by
Guarantee Trust Bank. Wouldn't you rather bank with us?